Hey guys, welcome to the Field of 68 YouTube channel. If you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button and you'll get more college basketball content just like this. I want to ask you this because one of the things we heard from Armando Bacot last night after the loss to Clemson was that they kind of did not have a great couple of days of practice, right? I think he said that they were actually kicked out of practice on Monday. They had a bad shoot around Tuesday morning, and then they were late to the arena on Tuesday night before the game. Um, Coming down from a big win like the win over Duke, like that rivalry game, is not always the easiest thing to do. How big of a letdown is it? And did you ever experience that when you were playing in that rivalry game?
I would say the toughest part about the rivalry is, not overlooking the opponent you have before the game. It's not necessarily having a win and then having a huge letdown the next game. But when I played, there's one rule with Coach Williams: you are never late. And if you're late for anything, you're going to be running, and that's the way it was. There's going to be some consequences. So you're only late once when I was in school, and that's enough to learn to never be late again. But when I look at this game from last night and the letdown that everyone's talking about against Clemson, yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown. They didn't come out and have their best start, but also they didn't have Seth Trimble. Seth Trimble is one of those guys who Mac just talked about. To me, he's a dog. He comes in, he plays his role, and there's a lot of players that place a lot of emphasis on scoring, and he's one of those guys that has really embraced the defensive end, and he's really done his part to have a positive impact on the game to really help this team. And the more minutes that he's gotten, you've seen some more offensive production out of him. When you saw us go a little stale in the Duke game, he's a guy that came in off the bench and gave us 10 points and also gave us a big lift. And he plays with such energy. I really felt like we were missing that. But we did come out flat. And if you look at the game that we had at Clemson, Clemson had an awful night. They didn't shoot the ball well, and then they start the game. PJ Hall got hot. Joe Girard seemed like he had wide open 3-point shots. And if you're going to let those guys shoot, especially Joe Girard wide open 3-pointers, you're going to pay. And, it was a little bit of a letdown, which is a little bit uncharacteristic for how older of a team that UNC is right now and what they've done so far this year. But hopefully, they learned their lesson because they lost to Georgia Tech, they beat Duke, and then they had another loss. And so you've got to turn around and get it in the right direction and learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, as John Henson put it on our show last night, guys, sometimes it takes a little while to sweat out the Casamigos. I don't know what he is trying to infer there about that, but apparently John Henson is a big Casamigos fan. Mac, when you've coached in the Xavier Cincinnati rivalry, which we all know is as intense as it gets. You've won a game for Louisville against Kentucky in that rivalry, which is about as intense as you can find in college basketball. But either before those games or after those games, how do you handle that as a coach? How do you find a way to keep your guys from focusing on the thing that obviously everybody else is focusing on?
Yeah, I think I'm on Tyler's page when it comes to, is your focus stolen? Let's say you play your rival on a Saturday and you have another game on the Wednesday prior to the game. That's the game you worry about the most because fans are going to talk about it. Guys are going to class. Fellow students are going to come up. Hey, can't wait to play Kentucky this weekend or Cincinnati. And so it's the days leading up to the game, especially that game before, that I always worried about more. I think it was a little bit easier to put that rivalry game to bed because the results happened, right? If you lost it, obviously it's like, hey, this doesn't define our season. We got to pick ourselves up. What better way to get the taste out of our mouth than playing a game here in 2-3 days, whenever it was. If you won it, man, you had those guys' attention. Hey, we got to be able to put it behind us. We'll celebrate it tonight, but let's be that mature team and come back tomorrow, watch film, get ready for the next opponent. And, a big part of that too, Rob, is based on your roster. if you have older, experienced guys where the season means a whole lot to them and they know what they're playing for, whether it's a regular season championship, whether it's a high seed in the NCAA tournament, guys that have been through the wars, they understand that. And it's your job as a coach to just sort of emphasize that when that game's over with, in my opinion.
Yeah, you guys are both operating before knowing that college athletes now have NIL money to be able to celebrate a little bit better than maybe what we all did when when we were celebrating when we were in college. I want Tyler, give me your best memory from the and it doesn't have to be like the best thing that happened, but give me like the first thing that pops in your mind, the best story that you have from playing in that Duke Carolina rivalry.
For me, it would have been my freshman year. There wasn't a lot of expectations put on our team. They had just won the national championship before the 05 team with Big May, Ray Felton, and those guys. And then, my class comes in with not a lot of hype. And then we go over to Cameron, who had JJ and Sheldon Williams on their senior night, and we got a win. That was my favorite memory, and that was my first game in Cameron. Obviously, getting that win with Wes Miller, Bobby Frazier, Marcus Skinner, Danny Green, all those guys that we'd worked for, that was special, and especially all the criticism we had heard to start the year. But then just going back to UNC, that short drive, and then celebrating on Franklin Street with all my classmates, that was special.
Well, if you were a freshman and you were celebrating on Franklin Street, you were doing it without breaking any laws, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't have any adult beverages that night either. So,
Mac, if you were still the head coach at Louisville right now and you sat here on a show wearing a blue sweatshirt, would you be able to make it back to your house afterwards, or would someone stop you and rip that thing off your cold life?
No, I'd be able to make it back to the house, but it would be all over social media for sure by the time I got to my house. So those days I don't have to worry about it now.
Thank you for watching the Field of 68. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, hit that like button, share this link with your friends, or check out the description for some other places that you can consume Field of 68 content.